In the hills of Bec, Italy, there lived a simple and humble boy named Don Bosco. At 9 years old, John had a dream that spoke deeply to his heart and would illuminate his entire life. He saw many young people fighting and arguing, and he became very distressed. Without thinking twice, he ran into the middle of the fight and tried to break up the boys by force. However, Jesus appears and gives him advice.
It won't be with blows that you'll turn these young people into friends. Treat them with kindness. Show them how beautiful virtue is and how despicable vice is.
Who are you, Lord? I can't do what you're asking me. I could never do it.
You most definitely will, with obedience and diligent study. For that, you have my mother here to guide you along the way.
Little John, look around. What do you see?
Wolves and wild animals.
Mary asks him to come closer and try to tame the wolves. But John, afraid, refuses. When the wolves turned into gentle little lambs, Mary shows him his path.
This is your mission. Seek to lead the young to the right path.
The vision disappears and John wakes up, but never again. That dream would never leave his mind or his heart. In the morning, John tells everyone about his dreams, and each person has their own guess. But Mama Margarita had a different look in her eyes.
Well, son, maybe one day you'll be a priest.
John fully agrees with what his mother says and comes to the realization that magic tricks could help the local youth stay away from fights and trouble. And so he entertains his friends with his juggling acts. But his brother was not at all happy with these games.
So you were going to work too?
The next day, John was worried about his brother's reaction. But he prays with his friends and keeps doing his acrobatics, understanding that this way he could help them. Sometime later, Mama Margarita prepares John for his first communion. The years went by and John kept dedicating himself to his studies. But at home, his brother kept arguing that he should go to work.
May God go with you, my son.
And that is exactly how he left home to begin working as a servant in the Moglia family's house. Now, John worked in the agricultural fields while studying at the nearby local school. One day, John met Father Colosso and shared with him his desire to help young people. Happy, the priest encourages him on this good path.
I will think of you and your studies. Come see me on Sunday with your mother. We'll arrange everything.
The following Sunday, it was agreed with his mother that Father Colosso would give him a lesson every day, and John would work the rest of the day in the fields. He had found a spiritual father. In the following months, they spent even more time together. And so John kept studying, learning, and preparing himself for the service that awaited him in the future.
You should keep this key safe.
Sometime later, before leaving, Father Colosso gives John the key that held all his money. However, John keeps the key and gives it to the family of his beloved friend. One night, John has the same dream about Our Lady again. He wakes up confident, with his purpose renewed. It was at a church festival that he met the seminarian Cafasso. Very excited, John enthusiastically invites him to go together to the magic booth.
I appreciate it, John, but my actual shows are the church ceremonies.
John keeps studying, and in his class, he founds the Society of Joy together with his friends, where he encouraged everyone to fulfill their duties with happiness, the duties to God and to school. John becomes a kind young man, loved by his friends, just as he loved youth. John thought about joining the Franciscan convent, but he had a dream where he was told he shouldn't enter that convent. Talking with Father Cafasso, he encouraged him to keep studying and then enter the seminary. And so, at 20 years old, to everyone's joy, Don Bosco puts on the religious habit.
My dearly beloved son, from the very moment when you were born, I solemnly consecrated you to Our Lady. So always remember, it is not the simple habit that gives you true dignity, but rather the inner strength of your own moral virtue.
John enters the Cherie Seminary, beginning his studies. Happy, he reads on the wall. For the sad, the hours pass slowly. For the happy, they go by quickly. And he finishes quickly.
Let's always be cheerful, and time will fly by.
John prayed, seeking to understand how to fulfill the calling he had received as a child.
What a joy to have you here.
During this time, many young people sought out John, and he would gather them in the large seminary courtyard, welcoming them with great joy and kindness. After playing, John would take the boys to church to pray, always inviting them to come back the following Sunday. Some old friends would come to visit him, and when someone joked that they didn't like priests, John would cheerfully reply, "Then that's no problem, because I'm not a priest yet." During the holidays, John would return to his childhood home, and there he learned many crafts and trades, which he would later teach to young people so they could work. John continued to gather some young people, teaching them above all to follow the right path. His dream was becoming a reality.
Dear Lord, please guide my steps each and every day so that I may do your will.
Luigi was his great friend and also studied at the seminary. One day, he became seriously ill, but before he passed away, Luigi told him that soon he would hear from him.
Bosco, I've finally been saved.
And that was finally how Bosco knew his friend was all right. And finally, on June 5th, 1841, John was ordained a priest. He celebrated his first Mass at the Church of St. Francis of Assisi in Turin, assisted by Father Cafasso, his friend since youth. John felt that day was the most beautiful of his life. That was when his journey as Don Bosco began.
John, now you are a priest. From today on, think only about the salvation of souls.
A few months later, Bosco entered the Ecclesiastical College of Turin and dedicated himself to catechism for both young people and adults. In that city, the reality for young people was even more dire. Abandoned, many were imprisoned, and when released, they returned to the same crimes and deviant ways.
These young men really need a supportive friend to carefully look after them so they don't end up back in prison again.
One day, before Mass was about to begin, Bosco saw a young man being expelled from the church. Deeply moved by his situation, he decides to go after the boy to offer him some help.
What's your name, my son?
Bartolomeo Gorelli. Father, I can't read and I don't know anything about Jesus.
Then come to the church and I will teach you.
Bartholomew was an orphan and alone in the world. Seeing his needs, Bosco invites him to learn more about the gospel.
Shall we pray, Messiah?
The boy returns, but not alone.
My children, listen carefully. Faith guides us, even in the most difficult moments.
And more young people join Bosco to learn about the teachings of Jesus.
My dear children, please know that our Heavenly Father truly loves each and every one of you.
Over time, the group continued to grow, and the Marquise Julia, who helped young girls in need, generously offered a portion of her property so Bosco could have a much larger space for all his young people. He was the kind and caring heart that the young people needed so much, and as a dedicated spiritual father, he offered them essential games, workshops, and of course, an abundance of guiding light to help lead their steps.
God is our Father. Remember, my children.
Everything was going well until one day.
Don Bosco, I need to talk to you. Leave the boys aside and dedicate yourself only to the girls at my school.
I'm sorry, Lady Marquise. These young people are very important to me. I'm stay with them.
I'm sorry, but you can no longer stay on my property with your young people.
Bosco didn't know where to go and prayed to Our Lady.
My lady, I'm afraid I have absolutely nowhere else to take my boys.
There is an open field in Valdaco. Take them there.
Filled with hope, Bosco begins searching for the place shown in his dream. Meanwhile, he gathers his young people outdoors in Valdaco, telling them about the protection of Our Lady. One day, Bosco went to celebrate Mass, accompanied by some young people. When the event was over, things got really chaotic.
Father, I don't know what to do. Things are getting worse and worse, and I'm so nervous.
The boys ran non-stop around the yard, scaring the chickens that belonged to the priest's helper, Local.
Your boys are always causing trouble.
Patience, my children. Our Lady will show us a good place for all of us.
There were many opinions about Don Bosco and his boys, but nothing could discourage him from the right path. Now, he has about 400 young people who walk by his side to go to Mass. And despite his happiness, the minister is starting to get worried.
I ask that you abandon these young people. This is going to get out of your control.
I can't, Minister. You have nowhere else to go.
Then I'll be compelled to organize and deploy a guard escort to guarantee everyone's safety.
Even without resources, Bosco always spoke with great confidence that one day he would have a large chapel, houses, and schools for his boys. Some priests started to think he was a bit mentally unstable and plotted to send him to an asylum.
Don Bosco, how are you spending this beautiful morning?
Of course, please come in first.
But Bosco realized it was a trap. He closed the carriage door with just the priest inside and told the coachman to drive off.
Let me go. This is a mistake.
And yet another problem arises. The owners of the land where Bosco and the boys were living started to complain.
Look, Father, your boys destroyed our entire crop.
This can't go on. We're waiving the rent payment, but we have to ask you to leave.
And now, Lord, where do we go? Our Lady, show me the place from the dream.
As if in answer from heaven, he meets a man who makes him an interesting offer.
This is Mr. Francisco Pinardi's property. You're gonna like it.
Now they would have a space to study, to learn, and, of course, a big courtyard to run and play in. The house was old and in ruins, but they had no shortage of willpower and determination. Slowly and steadily, they reconstructed, carefully repaired, and put up new structures in the home that Our Lady had specifically pointed out. The chapel was finished and received a statue of St. Francis de Sales. Easter arrived, and many boys from Valdocco attended the Mass celebrated by Don Bosco. It was kindness, inviting and captivating more and more young people. The older boys started working on the project alongside the contractors. Bosco was always nearby, caring for them and watching over them. Like a good father, he was tireless. Together with the contractors, he tried to convince them to pay the boys a fair wage.
My dear friend, please remember to pay the young men who help you on the job with genuine kindness.
Unfortunately, your condition is quite serious.
Over time, Bosco falls ill, and the young men pray day and night for his recovery. To help with his recovery, Bosco returns to Bec and invites his dear mother.
Mom, would you be willing to live with me and the young men? Mom, welcome to Casa Pinat.
Now, Bosco had his mother's kind heart to help him continue pursuing his dream. Even at the barber shop, he always had a special eye for the young men. He is served by a young apprentice.
What's your name, my friend?
And a few days later, the boy tells him that his mother has died. Bosco welcomes him with his fatherly heart. War comes to Italy, leaving many children orphaned and abandoned. Bosco asks wealthy families for help and manages to find more space to shelter them. After a few years, there was no more space in the house, and Bosco tells his boys that a new building will be constructed in the Porta Nova neighborhood. Some young men who grew up under his care go on to join religious life, later contributing to Don Bosco's works.
May God bless and guide your steps.
Meanwhile, several other young men helped in the vocational sector, teaching a variety of different trades to the boys. But the hardships continued, and part of a house that was being built collapsed. One night, all the food had completely run out, and the boys were very hungry. Bosco served them only a few chestnuts, and despite the little food, everyone was truly satisfied.
I thank God for being by your side helping our children, but I don't know for how much longer.
Mom, as long as there are abandoned boys, I want to give my life for them. Don't worry, later on, others will continue our work.
You're right, my son. This work belongs to God.
Despite all his kindness, some people plotted against Don Bosco. Once, a man tried to take his life, but the bullet passed between his arm and his ribs, only tearing his cassock.
Boys, don't worry. Go inside. Father, please accept this wine. It's from a good vintage.
No, thank you, I can't.
But why?
It's against my principles.
Another time, they tried to force him to drink a glass of wine, but his young men saved him. A dog named Grigio became his great protector during the help he gave at night. He was always ready to defend his master.
Thank you for your protection, my faithful friend.
Just a few short years later, a cholera epidemic swept through the city. Some managed to escape, but the number of victims grew day by day. A great many people were in desperate need of assistance, and Bosco invited the older boys to come and join him in his mission.
If you serve with good intentions, I guarantee that none of you will get sick. Have faith, my son. God always takes care of us.
Many accepted his invitation and, with confident hearts, began to serve the sick. The epidemic came to an end, and, in fact, none of Don Bosco's boys got sick. One day, Bosco meets Domingo Savio, who was only 12 years old. Despite his young age, his sensitive and kind heart quickly won over the other boys. He always consistently helped those who were struggling, avoided fights, and encouraged his friends to pray and do good deeds. He had a special devotion to Mary and founded a group called the Company of the Immaculate.
Let's love God in our daily lives and live with joy.
His greatest wish was to help young people walk a holy path in a simple way every day.
Let's try to help one another quietly. That is our joy.
3 years later, Domingos fell ill and said goodbye to life on earth with great joy.
I'm having a beautiful vision. How beautiful!
Some time later, Don Bosco talks with the minister and makes a request.
Minister, I would like to have a permanent group of colleagues to take care of abandoned youth.
I understand. We'll see what can be done. Don Bosco, for that you must found a society of religious people.
The Pope approves his idea to found a society adapted to those times. So Don Bosco gathers 19 young salesians to talk about his intentions and to follow the same ideal. 17 young men agree to be part of the Society of St. Francis de Sales.
My children, the name Salesian comes from St. Francis de Sales, the man who inspired charity in his life.
In another dream, Bosco sees Our Lady showing him a huge piece of land.
My son, this is my house. From here, my graces will flow.
Don Bosco, deal's done. The land is yours.
And with Mary's providence, Bosco not only manages to buy the land, but also to build a great sanctuary. 4 years later, Bosco builds the Institute of the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians to take in abandoned young girls. Maria Mazzarello, known as Mahin, becomes the first Mother Superior of the new institute.
Maria, I entrust to you the care of the Institute of the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians.
At 23, after facing a serious illness and no longer being able to work in the fields, she began gathering girls to teach and care for them with her maternal heart. At night, Bosco would write for the magazine he himself founded, Catholic Readings, to encourage young people.
The enemies of the young fight without stopping, but we too will only rest in heaven.
Don Bosco dreamed of a vast region where he saw men who were warriors and violent. Then he saw some missionaries accompanied by young people. And this time, the warriors laid down their weapons and became receptive to the gospel. He sent 11 missionary expeditions to South America. Don Bosco accompanied them all the way to their departure and gave them advice.
Take special care of the young, the sick, and the poor. That way you will have God's blessings.
His vision began to reach many places beyond Italy, and Bosco had to open courses for adult seminarians. Many teachers and parents became youth activists like him. Bosco celebrated his last Mass and was moved as he remembered his first dream about the young. His body no longer had the strength to walk, but in his heart there still shone an immense love for the young.
Tell my young people that I'm waiting for them in heaven.
In 1888, he finally bid a solemn farewell to his life here on earth, firmly believing that kindness can not only provide much-needed assistance, but truly save lives. Exactly 36 years later, Pope John Paul II officially bestowed upon him the title of Father and Teacher of Youth.
Don Bosco, Father of the Youth, hear today our prayer. Guide us on the path of life. Inspire and sustain our hearts. Give us your hand along the way. Teach us to love like Jesus, with kindness, joy, and hope. Be our strength, be our light. Care for us even today. Show us the good path to follow. Protect us from the dangers of the world. Be with us, upholding us. Give us your hand along the way. Teach us to love like Jesus, with kindness, joy, and hope. Be our strength, be our light. Show us the way, Don Bosco, Father, shepherd, and teacher. With Mary, you walk beside us. Always lead us to the Lord.
My beloved young ones, I will always take care of you.